So Mural, Mural, is the software that I use for replacing my flip charts, sticky notes, whiteboard online. And there's a really similar one to Miro. I genuinely don't experience them as particularly different. Again, it's one of those like whichever one you started with is probably the one you want to land with. And I don't think that there's kind of like a wrong choice there. So let's hop over to Mural and I'll kind of show you around. So I need to sign in. Okay, perfect. So we've used Mural a couple of different ways. As facilitator cards. So our most recent way we use Mural is basically instead of sticky notes, we were using Mural to brainstorm ideas. So I ran a session recently where we were coming up with, we were running the process 100 ideas. It's one of our facilitator cards. Let's see if I can go find it here. Yeah, so there's a facilitator card, 100 ideas, and we were running that process and seeing could we come up with 100 icebreaker questions. And what we did before kind of organizing them like this is I just had a blank mural. So actually, let me just show you what it looked like. Blank mural. So we had a totally blank mural. And what people needed to do is basically find their own spot on the mural where there wasn't anybody else. And I sent them the link in the Zoom chat, had them open this up, and I said, double click, and you will create a sticky note. And then go ahead and type an icebreaker question. So weirdest thing you've put on your feet. I don't know. That's what came to mind right now. Then once you've made one, I just want you to go ahead and make 10 sticky notes of icebreaker questions as fast as possible. They don't have to be good. They don't have to be bad. You don't need to think about like whether you would ever use them. This is just 10 questions as fast as you can. And everybody just started typing. One thing I like with Mural is that you can press, let me see. Can you press tab? Ooh, it's not working now. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay, so if you're typing in one and then you press tab, it'll like make another, so it's really fast to make these questions. And that's what we did. We made a bunch of sticky notes, and then after we had generated all of those, we organized them into this like kind of prettier grid here of 100 questions. So if you are interested in checking that out, I'll just leave the link in the chat. Ooh, oh no. I'll leave the link in the chat if you want to see that. If you want to see that 100 ideas icebreaker questions mural. And then I will also just show you around a couple other features that I've used as a facilitator with Mural. So making sticky notes is super powerful, and I would say is not to be underestimated in like how many different ways you can use that ability, right? So you can just do sticky note generator types of things. You can do mind maps. You can do a lot of like anything where moving them around is really helpful. So sometimes if you want to do like a timeline map or let's actually look. I'm going to pause on the Mural thing for a second and just look at the facilitator cards and see which ones use sticky notes that I would use Mural for them instead. Ooh, that one's an interesting one. We could use it for that. Let's see. 100 ideas. By the way, I will turn it to a different view here. Boom. Okay, so these are facilitator cards. If you're here, you might know what they are. So each of these cards is like a process or a way to work with a group and move people through an activity or a framework. And they've got the description on the back of the card. And what I'm doing right now is I'm looking for processes that I think would work, or kind of like activity structures that I think would work on Mural, or that I've used Mural to do. So on some of the the facilitator cards, you actually see this little icon, this middle one, that's a sticky note. So I'm looking for cards that have that sticky note, just like 100 ideas does. But but there's also some paper and pen ones that I think would work really well too. So that's what I am looking for. There's the classic sticky note generator. Oh yeah, timeline map. Subcommittees I've totally used. Fill in the model, that would work. 5 whys. Okay, we've got quite a few here. So we will probably pause on this soon. SWOT analysis would work. Okay, I'm almost through. Urgent, important, dot voting. Oh yeah, we got to do dot voting. Got to show you that. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jason. I also love the card cam and was very happy with this one. Okay, so let's look at a couple of these. I'm gonna look at the ones that I've like definitely done on Mural before, and I'll kind of show you how they work. So dot voting, there's like a really cool built-in thing. We kind of did. I showed you what sticky note generator can look like just a moment ago, which is kind of similar with 100 ideas, and then I can show you, I'll show you spectrum questions, urgent versus important, I've done that one, and subcommittees. Okay, so I'll show you those ones. And I think all of that will probably cover the ways in which you would do these other ones as well. Cool. Okay, we'll leave those to the side. If anybody watching is like, could you use Mural for this process or for this card, feel free to throw that in the chat and I will like absolutely speak to that one specifically. But for now, I'll just start by kind of showing you how to work through these. On Mural. And even if you don't have facilitator cards, then you will still have new ideas for using Mural. And if you have facilitator cards, then you will have a lot more understanding of like how to work these in Mural. So that'll be great for everybody. Okay. So this idea of just sticky note generating or doing 100 ideas, right? Just making a bunch of sticky notes that individuals can do. All you need to do to tell your participants how to do this is tell them double click. That's the only instruction I give when I'm helping groups get oriented over to Mural, other than, I guess that's a lie. There's one more instruction that I give. And that is that I tell them to click this navigation. Oh, wow, why is that so prominent? Go away, Mural. All right, cool. So this navigation setting down here, that's the only other thing I instruct my groups to look at, is I say, when you get into the Mural, close all the pop-ups and open up this navigation thing and just choose trackpad or mouse, depending on what you're on. And once they know that, they'll have a much easier time moving around the Mural because they can use their scroll wheel on their mouse or pinch and zoom. And then the only other instruction I give is just that double click. So I really like that. I just really like the simplicity because sometimes with technology, it can be really overwhelming for participants to like learn it. And this one you don't have to. So in order to run 100 ideas or sticky note generator, that is all people need to know how to do. So once you have a bunch of sticky notes, so let's go back to one that has a bunch of stickies. So let's say if we were all in this 100 icebreaker idea, and I said, okay, we're going to create a resource together and we're going to highlight 15 of our favorites. Like, let's say there's like 50 of us who are voting on this, or even just 5 of us who are voting on this. We could do that with dot voting. So up here at the top of Mural, you'll see this little icon and it says voting session. So that is actually a dot voting feature that's built straight into Mural. So you can just go ahead and click start voting session, and then you get all these options. So you can title it, which could be neat. Like you could title it, initial choices. And maybe you want everyone to pick like, okay, let's pick our personal 10 favorites. I just want to be the one who ends it. And then what can they vote on? So anything is fine. And then we hit start. And then it tells, this is a prompt that it will show everybody. And then you just go ahead and click begin voting. So this is what it will look like for your participants when you do this, is they'll just go ahead and select the different things. And you can see like, I have 6 votes left right up here. So they'll vote. And when you have a bunch of people right here, you'll be able to see everybody's in that list, and you'll be able to see how many votes they have left. You can also set a timer that everyone can see if you want to do that. And then once everybody's voted, you hit end voting session, and then it tabulates the votes like this. So if we had had a bunch of different votes, it would have said, like, these were the ones that had 7 votes, or these were the ones that had 6 votes, or whatever it is. And they'll kind of do that all the way down to the ones that had 1 vote. So that's pretty neat. And really fast in dot voting. And then you can actually see which cards had what numbers, like that'll stay present if you want to. If you close out of the dot voting session, then it won't. But you can also go back and show the votes. So that's really nice for dot voting. If, like, for that example that I was giving you, if we wanted to be able to pull those questions out, then we can do that and do that pretty quickly. So yep, so that's dot voting on basically something that you sticky note generated. Okay, so let's look at a couple other ways to use Mural. So one way to use Mural is kind of hacky, but I've tried it and it actually worked pretty well. So what I did is, so if you are somebody who has spent time in in-person workshops, then you have probably had to do a strongly agree over here, strongly disagree over here. I'm going to read a statement as a facilitator, and I want you to move according to where you see, like, I prefer facilitating alone. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, right? And put yourself along that spectrum. So that idea of spectrum questions is kind of tricky to do, or at least, like, it doesn't seem obvious how to do that online. So you can actually do that on something like Mural, and you can even do a little bit more of a hacky way on Zoom itself, which I will mention again later. So on Mural, you can basically set up that spectrum and have everybody exist as either like a sticky note or an avatar, like a little image of themselves. So let's hop over to Mural and see how this would work. So I'm going to just make a line. Okay, I've made a line, and then we're going to do strongly agree. Whoop, on one end of the line, and then we're going to do strongly disagree on the other end. Okay, and I'm going to lock all of this down so that I don't keep moving it around as I build everything else. So now we've got our spectrum, and what we need now is the ability for people to, like, indicate where they are. So one really simple thing you could do is invite everybody in and say, okay, I want you to, when you get to this spectrum, I want you to double click, and I want you to go ahead and write your name on your sticky note. Okay, and that's your sticky. And that's going to serve as kind of like your little indicator of where you are on the spectrum. Strongly agree to strongly disagree. I'm going to read a statement. I prefer facilitating by myself, and place your sticky note anywhere on the spectrum that feels right to you, right? That would be one way to use, that would be one way to run this idea of spectrum questions using Mural. If you wanted to get a little fancier, or maybe you have the same group every time, you have people who are coworkers, and you can kind of do the same, you know who's going to be there, and that's going to be the same people. Then you could also bring in, like, photos of people. So let me see if I can find a photo of myself. Okay, there we go. Boom. So instead of just having me as a sticky note, now I'm just like a little photo of myself, and I can move me around. And man, even just seeing that, I'm like, that's so much better than the sticky note. It feels so much more personal. And as a facilitator, it would also make it a little bit like, you would want to do this with people that you know, their names to their faces, so that you can say, hey, Meg, you're down there and strongly disagree. Like, can you let us know, blah, blah, blah. Or if you set this up ahead of time, then you could also, and you don't know their names, but you have asked for their photos, you could also be like, I'm going to go ahead and actually, like, label people and make them a group. And so now we've got Meg moving around. So that would be another way to do it. But to me, one of the beauties of the like process spectrum questions is just this idea that people can kind of tell you where they're at without vocalizing it. But then as facilitators, we can invite people like, hey, okay, there's Meg and there's Shane and there's Lauren down there at Strongly Agree. Why don't the three of you tell us a little bit about like what that means to you, or like why you placed yourself where you did. So that could be like, it just allows you to invite specific people to speak for specific reasons. And I think this works really well. If you're watching this live or later and you think this works, or you can see yourself using it, I would love to know in the comments, because I really think as soon as I put the picture on there, I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. Okay, so that was Spectrum questions. And then other ways I've used Mural. So with Mural, I'm doing stuff like just building it live, but you can get really fancy with Mural ahead of time. I tend not to. I'm not that graphically gifted, but you can do things ahead of time to kind of like set people up to use the Mural in particular ways. So let me show you one way that I have done that in the past. Let's see. This one. Probably, yeah. So there's when I'm running sessions on facilitations, like longer trainings on facilitations, one of the things that we get into is this idea of what's the difference between teaching, lecturing, and facilitating, right? And the way that I actually move people through that is I put them into subcommittees, and one of the subcommittees takes facilitating, one takes teaching, and one takes lecturing. And what their jobs are is to basically define that thing, that like mode of engaging a group, and then tell me what it's good at and tell me what it's bad at. What are the pros and what are the cons? And so the way that I facilitate that in person is I give people a flip chart. This is my stand-in for my flip chart. But I give people a flip chart and I just tell them, okay, like I just divide the flip chart into 3 parts, and I say, up here, I want you to write the definition. Can be words, can be whole sentences, whatever you want. And then this is the pros. That's supposed to be a plus sign. And this is the cons. And I just want you to list them out. And so they'll get a flip chart piece of paper that looks something like this with like the word teaching right at the top. So I wanted to emulate this online, right? I wanted to be able to give them essentially a flip chart and say, fill that in. And so that's what I've used Mural for ever since I needed to be able to do that. So this is what it is. I've set up ahead of time this little grid that I made with Mural just using shapes that I then locked down. And we've got facilitating. And then again, it says definition, write it up here, pros and cons. And then all they do is just make sticky notes and put them in the right places. So anytime that you are running a process where there's maybe you want people to like put certain ideas in certain places, or again, you would in physical workshops, give them flip charts or sticky notes or a set of instructions to fill out, you can do that on Mural. And that's one of the ways that I run subcommittees on Mural. Okay, the last one is kind of a combination of those two, I guess. It's a structure that you can do ahead of time, like with urgent and important. So you make an urgent and important grid, and then you can move stickies to where those fall for you on a grid. So we actually, like, I don't just use Mural to facilitate, I also use it to run facilitator cards. Not heavily, but like this is one way we do it. So like these are all the things that we're thinking about focusing on or working on at facilitator cards, and they are plotted out on this urgent and important grid. So the higher up here in the corner they are, the more urgent and important they are. And what's cool about this is like some things cannot, like maybe that's not urgent or important right now, right? But it's still something that you want to see or focus on or just have available to you. So yeah, that's another way that we've used Mural. There are so many templates on Mural to explore that they've already created. There's a ton of retrospectives of like people doing them in different ways. And yeah, there's a ton of options on here. So, and you can sort them. Okay, cool. So like just icebreakers. Favorite ways to check in. Yeah, there's a ton to, oh, decorate a festive sweater. See, like random stuff like that. So, there's there's a lot of ways to use Mural. I showed you just a few of the ways we use it. But I think that if you have people who think, I don't know if you can do real collaborative or interesting or just like fun, dynamic things online, I think a sticky, something that stands in for a collaborative whiteboard is really, really interesting. So let's just look at one of these that's look how cool this is. Oh my gosh. It's just so cute. This was definitely made by a graphic facilitator. The agenda's all cute. Yeah, so you can get real fancy with it, or you can use it like I did, which is just really simple. Sticky notes, grids. It's kind of like the world of dot journaling or bullet journaling. It's like the world of bullet journaling. You can get really fancy or you can get really simple. Yeah, either way is good, but don't get intimidated by all the Pinterest bullet journals. Find what works for you.